Hello and welcome to another video with me, Veerle, and I'm going to talk about medieval astrology. I just want to share that. I want to share something in particular, and that is called Firdaria. I really like that word. And Firdaria means a period that a particular planet is important. So of course, you don't have to be an astrologer to use this, even if you have some basic knowledge about astrology, you can use this. And the thing why I think Firdaria is so a good tool, it is that it serves the overall view in a chart, but also the detail. And this is really interesting, because I think if you want to look at your chart, you want some clues of the overall situation, the overall context of your life, where are you heading at, but you also want to know some details. So that's why I really love this ancient technique. So it is, as with everything, I think, if you're interested in something, whether it is cooking or astrology, you need your basics, right? You know, if you are a cook, you need your basics to cook. And that is way back in traditional knowledge. But there's also the modern techniques that are very interesting and that are very nowadays. So I really love to look at different techniques, whether they are very modern or whether they are about, let's say, Juno or Chiron. But every now and then I really like to look at this ancient astrology, which medieval astrology of the Middle Ages, of course, is an example of. And it's not really known. And I think, and I'm really holding down my enthusiasm, because otherwise you wouldn't believe it, but I think it's an amazing tool, and it's really opening up and giving you a very good insight into yourself, because medieval astrology, and especially this Firdaria that I'm going to explain, there were two main points. First of all, Firdaria, and it wanted to predict. That's one thing. And I think if you are someone who wants a bit of, let's say, control of your life, you can always try to look into the future. And that's not always a good thing, I think. But on the other hand, you can also use it as a tool. It is also as interesting if you use it to understand yourself better and to understand the situation that you're in at a particular time, to understand that better. Then Firdaria is really a great tool. But now let's talk about it and let's explain. It's very difficult to explain in the whole detail, so I'm not going to do that, but it's very basic. The basic thing is that Firdaria, which means period, it's a word, and it's going to, so if you were born during the day or if you were born during the night, that already makes a difference. So there are different periods of life, of a person's lifetime. And the periods are around 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. These are the periods of a certain planet that comes to the surface and plays a significant role, but an overall part of your life. So the ones who were born during the day, the sun starts with, when you were born, it's the sun that is the first significant planet. When you were born during the night, it is the moon. So the moon is the most significant planet when you were born. And then it has its period of, let's say, 7 to 8 years, something like that. And then there's another planet. Now, the following up of those planets is a bit weird. It's a bit strange. I don't see a good order in it. But the thing is, if you apply it, it does make sense. So if you are, let's say, 10 years younger than I am, we can have the same Firdaria, we can have the same planet that is important in our life. So, and if you want to research it, I'll put some links underneath. How, first of all, how to calculate it, which is so easy. You just have to put in date of birth, and if you have your sun in the chart above the horizon or under the horizon. That's the only thing you need to do, and then you have the whole, you know, the whole overview of periods from the date of birth until many years further. So now, what is interesting about this Firdaria? If you do astrology and if you want to give a reading, well, I think every astrologer has its own technique. I always start with the Firdaria, and then I go to the progressions, and then I go to the transits. Why do I do that? Because I think I've been using this Firdaria thing about a year, I guess, and it always gives me this overall structure. And then I go to the progressions, also very not in detail. Also the things that hit the eye and the progressions. And then you start looking at the transits. Why is that? Because a progression, you can have, let's say, a Saturn transit in your 12th house, which is all about ending cycles, and which is about ending stuff. But you can have in your progression, which I think is a higher level, you can just have had a new progressed moon, which is all about new beginnings. So it's very important in what order you take your view, because you can give the advice to someone, end up finish stuff, and but actually there are at a higher level at the process of new beginnings and new starts at a particular area of life. And of course, yes, this ending up can be just a detail of another area of life. So that's why I think this order is so important. Now, let's go back to this Firdaria. So you can calculate this, and you can look at what particular period you are in your life. Let's get this into practice. Let's apply it, and let's take me as an example, because it's so easy to explain, it's so obvious. The period I am in now, so we are going to see these periods are around 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, some a bit longer, some a bit less. So it's a period. And it is said in that medieval astrology, if a period starts, there's quite an event happening, or there is significant stuff happening in your life. So this should be true, right? So we'll take a look at that. And then in those periods of, let's say, 7, 8 years, there are sub-periods. So for instance, for me, I'm now in a Saturn period. So it is, Saturn is a Firdaria, so it's all about Saturn. But there are sub-periods. And the sub-period I am in now is Jupiter. So I'll explain that in a minute. So how do you apply this? Very basic astrology. If you think about Saturn, you don't have to put it in a positive way or in a negative way. You put it in a neutral way. So you could say, okay, this period in my life is about Saturn. So it's about, could be responsibility, it's about maturity, it's about consolidations, it's about things that are becoming real in your life, and so on. This is just a flavor of Saturn. So don't think if you are in a period of Saturn, oh, it's a negative planet, it's not good. No. So that's the first thing you do. Then you look at your natal chart, and you look at the sign it is in, and you look at the house it is in. So for me, it's in Taurus in the 6th house. So what does that mean? First of all, you look in Taurus. Is that a good position or a bad position? Is it having trouble in that sign or not? Okay, for me it's Taurus. It's they call it peregrine, which means it's not good, it's not bad. It's in the 6th house, which could be different things if you know astrology about the houses. In my case, it's about work and about day-to-day routine. So that is going to be significant, okay? And then you look at the aspects. Then you look at, does it have any aspect that makes it more difficult or that makes it more easy? Right. So if this has to work as a predictor, and if this has to work as to understand what is happening in your life, you look at the beginning of this new Firdaria period. For me, it was around, I think, around 2010. So something must have happened, considering that planet, that house, that sign. So was that true? Yes, for me it was true. There was a shift in my, you could say, my work, in my day-to-day stuff. You also have to look, I forgot to mention that, at the ruler of that planet, the rulership, the houses. So Saturn, in my case, rules the 2nd house and the 3rd house. So that is involved as well. And it was about, the 2nd house in Taurus is also about talents. So for me, it was about working on my talents, and it was also about starting something new, which was the teaching in my case. So it also rules the 3rd house of teaching and of communication. So that was true. It was a significant period because it was a big shift when it came to my day-to-day routine and when it came to work. So that's correct. Now let's have at the sub-periods, and then it becomes very interesting. When the sub-period came of Jupiter, which was last year around the end of April, it was bang on. It was very accurate information. What do you do then? You look at the transits. So in this case, you look at transits of Saturn and of Jupiter. And what was going on? I was having a Jupiter transit on my Saturn. And when that was bang on it, at 20, in my case 22 degrees of Taurus, when Jupiter was hitting my natal Saturn, there was something very expansive and liberating. And you know, the thing, Jupiter really, if it hits Saturn in a conjunction, it frees the boundaries. It makes the boundaries go away, you could say. And it's and especially if you look at the other aspects, this was making great aspects. So yes, it was a really, to the specific date, there was something liberating going on with that 6th house. So because I changed my direction when it comes to work. So this is all, in my point of view, very accurate information. And but I wanted to see if the past, you know, you can. It's very easy to look at the past and then say this has to work as well, right? So I thought about something important in my life, which was, of course, for me, having a child. So I'll take a look. Is there a new period starting somewhere? When I was pregnant, funny enough, yes, there was. There was a new, in that year when I got pregnant, a new period, a new planet coming to the surface for a certain period of time, and it was the moon. So yes, very important. If you look again to its sign, its house position for me is the 4th house. So it's the house of nurturing, it's the house of a family, and so it was very astonishing again. And then when the child was born, so a year, well, 9 months of course, but on that period as well, it was a moon sub-period, Saturn sub-period. So moon is about, you could say for me, it was about motherhood, and Saturn is about responsibility. So that fits in again quite nicely. Now, if you have planets that are in a bit of a, let's say, a bit of a difficult position in your natal chart, so like with me, the moon, it's not really the greatest, fantastic moon, it's having a bit of trouble with, well, not trouble, but it's a bit different or a bit challenging because it's connected with Uranus and with some other stuff. But anyway, it's not going to mean that those 7 years are going to be dreadful or difficult, even if a planet would be in detriment. It doesn't mean that. It only means that that particular planet and all that is connected to it, like I did with the house and the sign and so on, it comes to the surface and you have to deal with it. And when the planet is struggling, well, it will be a bit more of a struggle as well, but the reward will be very fulfilling. So let's take this example again with this moon in my case, which was, you know, I have a Uranus moon, which means when it comes to nurturing, when it comes to the emotional side of life, I need to feel my freedom, and I need to be to have the feeling of the thought, at least, of being free and being able to do what I want and express myself just as I want. That's Uranus, and it's not the standard procedure. So if you look at someone who's got a normal or a standard or a natural good moon, they would have very it would be easy to, in this case, this was for me, it was about motherhood. It's not for everyone. You know, when you've got your moon in the 10th, it could be to do with work, of course, in that period that you have. But for me, it was raising a child, and it's just that you do it in a different and a non-mainstream way. So you have to express it anyway. But let's have an example of when you read a book about children and about babies, then there is instructions like when it's 6 months you have to feed it like this, and when it's 7 months you can feed it like this. Well, I didn't do that. When they say you have to give a bath every evening and that calms the baby down, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. Not to be a rebel, but just because you're not this, you have this moon Uranus thing in my case. So I'll give them a shower every morning instead of giving him a bath, which was good, by the way, because I got my shower as well. That was good. So it was true that women said to me, you know, you have no time for yourself, and that's quite for someone who has a Uranus moon. So I thought it like that. We had showers together. It was fun, and it is what I'm trying to say here is that if you have a planet that's having a bit of trouble in your natal chart, you just have to, according to the aspects that you have and the sign it is in. So even if it would be a Pluto aspect to your moon, you will have to incorporate that. And if it's a hard aspect, like with me, you will have to incorporate that as well, a bit alternatively. So with Pluto, it could be, now the good thing about Pluto is the intensity and the focus and the passion, which is very good. The negative side is the obsession. So, because if you're obsessive about something, you're not going to get it. So it could be that team that is going on to that particular planet that comes to the surface again. So so as you see, you can start very basic and very overview of a planet. You know, that moon, for me, it's about having a child and raising it. And in that period of 7 years, lots of other stuff happened, of course. That was also important, but that was the kind of the main thing. So, as you see, this Firdaria, this piece of medieval astrology, really works on the highest level and on the biggest, deepest detail. And I hope it was interesting for you. I hope you can, with the links that I provide here, that you can do a little bit of research yourself, and that it is giving you some insights and maybe a prediction there, who knows. Thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye bye.